Hi, I'm Frank Kane, one of the creators of the SkyMaxx Pro add-on for X-Plane, one of the most popular add-ons there is in the world of X-Plane. And the internet being what it is, there's a lot of misinformation being spread about SkyMaxx Pro out there, so let's talk about that and dispel some myths that are out there concerning SkyMaxx Pro. So one thing you might hear from critics of SkyMaxx Pro is that the frame rate impact is too great. It just eats too much performance. The FPS hit is unacceptable. Let's do a little experiment here and see if that's really true. So here we are flying in overcast conditions. I think I have the visibility set to about 50,000 square kilometers for the cloud draw area. Pretty challenging conditions here. We have clouds out as far as the eye can see. There's actually some storms developing around me, so this is a pretty tough set of conditions to simulate. And you can see in the frame rate counter here that we're running in the mid-30s for frame rate right now, and that's pretty good considering that I have all the sliders pretty much maxed out in my graphics settings right now, and I'm capturing video at the same time. So as an experiment, let's go ahead and disable SkyMaxx Pro from the plugin admin menu. And by doing that, I'm going to completely take SkyMaxx Pro out of the picture and let X-Plane's default clouds come back in instead. And you can see that the frame rate here is actually about the same as it was under SkyMaxx Pro. One difference though is that it's a little bit less stable. You know, there's a lot more variation in that frame rate, and that can be a bad thing. So based on the evidence here, SkyMaxx Pro and X-Plane's default clouds look pretty comparable to me. So where did this myth come from? Well, a lot of times when you push your system too hard, you've just installed too many things into your simulator at once. And that will bring your system to its knees. You only have so much memory on your PC, you only have so much video memory on your graphics card, and if you install too many add-ons or too much custom scenery or HD mesh and things like that, eventually you're going to hit that wall. And a lot of times for people, SkyMaxx Pro is the thing that pushes you over that edge. It's kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. But that doesn't mean that SkyMaxx Pro itself is slow, it just means that you've installed too much stuff on your PC. Also, I will admit that on stormy conditions, that can be a very challenging situation for performance with SkyMaxx Pro, but we give you the cloud draw area slider to address that. So if you ever have a situation where you're not happy with the performance of SkyMaxx Pro, just turn down the cloud draw area setting until you reach a happy medium between cloud draw distance and performance on your system, and that should get you back in action. Another thing you'll hear about SkyMaxx Pro sometimes is that it feels like you're flying in a box inside this small area of clouds surrounding your plane. And I can understand where that misconception comes from. Let's take a look. So I'm flying up here at around 40,000 feet. That's about as high as you're going to get in the real world, no matter what you're flying. Well, maybe an SR-71 would go higher in the space shuttle and things like that, but typically this is about as high as you're going to get. And if you look around here, you can see that, yeah, the clouds around us don't extend that far. And that's because I'm running with our default settings for SkyMaxx Pro right now. Now, we very much err on the side of performance with our default settings. We want to make sure that you get smooth performance as you start to fly. And that's great. You know, the settings that we give you out of the box are perfectly acceptable if you're flying at lower altitudes or general aviation aircraft. But up here at 40,000 feet, it doesn't really cut it. But there's a very simple fix for this. All you have to do is go back to your settings in SkyMaxx Pro, and you'll see this slider for the cloud draw area. All you have to do is increase that to the point where you can find a nice trade-off between your system's performance and the draw area for the clouds. I'm actually going to max this all the way out because I have plenty of video memory to spare, I have plenty of RAM to spare, and I have a pretty good video card. So you can see that now I can actually see all the way out to the horizon. Now don't confuse the edge of that cirrus layer with the edge of the horizon there. There's actually a little gap there between the cirrus clouds and the real horizon. Those clouds are extending all the way to the visible horizon right now. So anyone who tells you that SkyMaxx Pro cannot render clouds out to the horizon is steering you in the wrong direction, or maybe they just didn't know about that slider setting where you can very easily increase that limit with just a swipe of your mouse. Something else I hear sometimes is that all clouds look the same in SkyMaxx Pro, and that really couldn't be further from the truth. It really comes down to the weather conditions that you're simulating in X-Plane, which we will faithfully represent. A lot of times weather in the real world isn't that interesting. If you just have one layer of overcast flat clouds, that's what we represent, because that's what the real world is giving you at that time. However, we do grow every single cloud individually from what's called a cellular automata algorithm. That means that every cloud is unique in SkyMaxx Pro, and it's grown using a random set of conditions as it forms and develops vertically. We have different representations for different kinds of clouds. It's not all one cloud type in SkyMaxx Pro. We have a representation here you can see of a cumulonimbus thunderhead that we're flying into. It actually has a rain shaft and clouds extending all the way down to the ground here, and our own lightning effects that are tied into SoundMaxx for some realistic thunder sound effects as well. And as you fly above that cloud layer, you can see that we have many other types of clouds represented as well. We have distinct representations not just for the cumulonimbus cloud you just flew through, but also for a cumulus congestus cloud surrounding it, towering cumulus clouds for developing storms in the area, and then we have another representation for the cirrus clouds, and also for the overcast clouds, we have a distinct representation for altocumulus clouds there as well. So we have like 5 or 6 different cloud types that we actually represent in SkyMaxx Pro. It's really just a matter of getting into the right simulated conditions to show off those capabilities. Another concern I sometimes hear is an aesthetic one. People feel like the clouds look cartoonish under certain conditions. And again, I understand where this comes from. There are certain conditions where they don't look as good as I would like. And it's really hard to make clouds that look perfect under every lighting condition and every weather condition you can dream up. And sure enough, I'll admit that if you're flying at dawn or at dusk and you're pretty close to the clouds and you have scattered or broken cumulus conditions around you, things can look a little bit weird. You start to see the actual edges of the individual puffs that make up our volumetric clouds, and the illusion can start to break down a little bit. But there's a very easy fix for that as well. If you go to the settings in SkyMaxx Pro, you'll see that we give you a lot of control over the look of those clouds. And all you have to do to fix this particular problem is change the cumulus representation from crisp or soft to fast. And that will basically trade off larger scale detail for smaller scale detail in the clouds. And that will make your clouds look more natural when you're up close to them, even under these challenging sorts of lighting conditions. If you get back up to higher altitudes, you might find that you prefer the crisp or soft options instead, because clouds look better at a distance with those options, and that's why those are the default. But if you don't like the looks of the clouds, change them. SkyMaxx Pro gives you a lot of control. You have 3 different options for the cumulus representation and 4 different options for the overcast representation of the clouds as well. So if you don't like it, dive into the settings and experiment until you find a look that you do like. Another one I hear is that you have to pay for updates all the time with SkyMaxx Pro. And our policy isn't really any different than any other add-on provider. We charge for major version upgrades where we're providing some significant new features or new functionality in the product. And within those major version runs, we'll have minor version updates that are free. And we've provided countless numbers of these free updates over time. Now, other add-ons just haven't been around long enough to have a major version upgrade yet, so you haven't been hit with that price yet. But the reality is, in order to stay in business, we have to charge for our software once in a while. And we try to make it worth your while, and we provide features that we think are compelling to motivate you to update to the latest versions when we do a major version update. But for things like bug fixes or just performance tweaks or things like that, we always offer that for free to you as a minor version upgrade within the same major version run. Our policy isn't any different from anybody else, and we try to be as fair as possible about it. Something else you might hear is that SkyMaxx Pro doesn't look good in X-Plane 11, or it's not optimized for X-Plane 11. Also not true. We've supported X-Plane 11 from the very first beta. SkyMaxx Pro 4 supports it natively. If you see people posting screenshots of the edges of the clouds looking kind of wonky in X-Plane 11, they're probably using an older version under SkyMaxx Pro 3 or earlier. But if you upgrade to SkyMaxx Pro 4, that's what we've been showing you in all these videos so far, and this has all been within X-Plane 11, and it looks great and it performs great. So if you want X-Plane 11 support, make sure you have SkyMaxx Pro version 4 or newer. One last thing we need to talk about is this misconception that x-aviation is some big evil company that's just out to steal your money. And I don't even know where to start with that. First of all, nobody is getting rich off of X-Plane add-ons. As far as I know, SkyMaxx Pro is one of the most, if not the most popular add-on for X-Plane of all time. I'm splitting the money between me and John Spawn, and it's not enough for me to live off of, okay? Out of all the things that I do that make money, SkyMaxx Pro provides the least amount of money. No one's getting rich off of this stuff, okay? If you're actually pirating our software or sharing your license keys with other people, all you're doing is hurting me and John Spawn's families, okay? You're not injuring some faceless corporation. Now, what happens here is that we do have a DRM system in place because piracy is unfortunately a very big reality in the world of flight simming. And we want to make sure that we at least make enough money to justify the ongoing effort of keeping SkyMaxx Pro current and up to date. But what happens a lot is that people will get a copy of SkyMaxx Pro and they'll share their licensing keys with their friends. Now, x-aviation has a very sophisticated system for detecting this sort of a thing. And if they actually find that you've been sharing your license key across different computers across different parts of the world at the same time, they will shut down your license. And a lot of the hate that you see directed online at x-aviation is from people who got caught. Now, I get concerned about these things that I see on Facebook, for example. A lot of times you see people saying, I filed a support ticket, a month ago and I never heard back from x-aviation. I can't use my software. And when I see something like that, very often I will push back to x-aviation and I will say, give me the details of this case. What's going on here? Why aren't you guys providing good customer support? And every single time, the answer comes back with irrefutable evidence that this person was sharing their license keys with more than one person across the world, and that they were using the same license for SkyMaxx Pro from multiple different locations. Basically, they were pirating our software, they got caught, they got upset about getting caught, and now they're on a vendetta to smear x-aviation online. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't some people out there who have legitimately had problems with customer support with x-aviation. When you have thousands of people out there, some people are going to fall through the cracks, sometimes the system won't work. Totally understand that. But every case that I've dug into, it's turned out to be a pirate. And those pirates get very vindictive when they get caught, and 99% of the vitriol that you see online against x-aviation are coming from these people. Some of them have even partnered up with our competitors to do further damage to the SkyMaxx Pro product. And like I said before, all you're doing is hurting me and John Spawn and our families. It's not some evil, faceless corporation. So I don't know what you're trying to accomplish there. Just let it go, guys. So there you have it. I hope we've busted some of the main myths surrounding SkyMaxx Pro, and maybe you've gotten a few ideas about how to actually tweak your own performance and the look and feel of your own installation of SkyMaxx Pro as a result of watching this. If you are a SkyMaxx Pro customer, thank you. We really appreciate your business. And if you want to learn more about our product, check out the link in the description or the link at the bottom of this screen to go learn more about SkyMaxx Pro and Real Weather Connector. Thanks.